All right, guys. Well, welcome to this week's episode for Brand Like a Boss. My name is Sanjeev, and week I'm working with real estate agents to help them improve their website branding and their entire online experience. And this week, I'm very excited to welcome Peter Watts from Vancouver Island. I'm going to have him here, talk with me and chat about how his website's doing and how we can help it perform a lot better. Before we kind of dive in with Peter, I'm actually going to take the time to just quickly go through our last week's guest who we took the time to update his website and kind of work with him on a couple of different things. That's Pete Chapman. If you guys didn't watch that webinar, just so you know, all of our webinars are available inside of our knowledge base. So just want to show you where that's located because some of you guys might be joining us for the first time. Some of you guys have been following along for quite some time, but it's located underneath the support section of your backend right here. It says knowledge base. And when you come over here at the very, very bottom, you're going to notice there's a section called the weekly webinar series recordings. And this is where you're going to actually see all of the recordings that are visible. So again, Pete's episode, which is episode number 4, we did that, like I said, last week. And inside that specific episode, we talked about 2 specific things that I thought were really unique for Pete's website, which was landing pages and that of talking about marketing related material. And so I just want to kind of show that to you guys because last week we had kind of done something really just on the fly and I wasn't really kind of, given much time to like obviously perfect it. So I just quickly show this to you guys, but I had basically done, I believe it was this post right over here. So I had done this kind of on the fly without really kind of much, time and energy that I could put into this. But this is what I had done for Pete. Now, after putting some time into it throughout the week, this is kind of what we ended up coming out with. So you can see here, there's proper designs now created inside a brand app for him for his open houses, for his new listings, just listed, just sold, for different types of shapes and sizes, so that when he has a new listing, he can come into this back end now, which is the design tool that everybody has access to with My Real Page. And now you can go and create a brand new design for his listing. So if he wants to make a post for, say, his just sold listing or just listed on Facebook, you can click on this design, see his property, and then all of the property's contents go directly into that design for him, branded, ready to go. So he's basically all set and able to go ahead and make the post from there. So Pete, hope you're really happy with this. We're really happy with what we were able to produce for you. I know you're pretty stoked about it as well. And then the last thing as well too is we had built that landing page, which we did live for everybody on that call. We've gone through a process of basically building out a kind of what your neighbors sold for type of a page that was really effective in that of maybe capturing leads for people that were looking for sold data. And that was an example of a landing page that we had created as well too. So if you haven't watched the episode, go back and take a look. A lot of great stuff you can take out of that. But today I want to kind of shift gears and talk about Peter. So Peter, welcome to our show here today. How you doing today, my friend?
I'm really good. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to kind of jump in here with us and talk about how we can improve your website. And before I kind of get in and talk about the different tools and things that we can do, tell us a little bit about your background if you don't mind. Like, where are you practicing real estate? How long you've been doing it for? Give us a little bit of the story. That'd be awesome.
All right. So I've been practicing real estate now for just over 4.5 years. I'm actually at my third brokerage, is because I've just recently joined a team. But otherwise, I'm really enjoying the industry, really enjoying the business. Before I became a realtor, I was actually in hospitality. So I like to sort of use my hospitality background in my messaging to sort of, I'm all about delivering service. All
Mm.
right. Hence, you can see that it's a bit of a theme in my system, my website. I'm not sure if it's relevant, if it works, but it's something I'm trying to sort of get the message out on. My passions in life is actually scuba. I've scuba dived all around the world as a treasure hunter, as a recreational diver, and as a scuba instructor. And I use that a little bit in my marketing as well to sort of say, if I can be a treasure hunter, I'm sure I can find the right house for you.
Nice. I love it. I love it.
My other passion is cooking. I used to have a restaurant here on the island before I went back into hotel management, and I'm a fine dining chef. Yes, I'm an absolute food snob. You will not see me at any fast food outlets. No way in hell. I cook everything from scratch, everything from fresh. My wife gets the benefit of a restaurant quality meal every evening.
Wow. How
Uh,
lucky she is.
and I
Maybe if I do a really nice website, maybe I can, get out of this a nice meal made by you, and I can get some free scuba diving lessons.
I actually do teach cooking, and I have my last big. As you can see, I have a bit of a neck brace on. I had my neck adjusted. I got 6 pieces of titanium installed, so now
Wow,
I'm
wow, wow.
rock and roll. But I actually do cooking classes for my clients at my
That's
house.
so cool. That's really, really cool. I love that. Well, that's awesome. Really good to hear about your background. And I love the fact that one of the things that you're doing, Peter, and just, a lesson for everybody, when it comes down to building a brand, you want to build a brand that's consistent and recognizable. And what Peter's talking about here is something that I talk a lot about. I mean, first of all, not even mentioning like these industry leaders who talk a lot about putting your brand front and center, making sure your website is a tool that basically reaches out to all these different people utilizing your brand. But one thing that is your brand is typically your copywriting. And I talk about this on the slide, which is the 23-point advantage slide deck training that I did, about a couple months ago. And you can find this in our knowledge base as well too. But inside this training, I talk about like making sure you update your website copy to match your brand voice. And what Peter, you've done right now is you've done a good job of helping me understand what your brand voice is. And I've seen that on your website here now. It makes a lot of sense how you have this tagline, how can I be of service, right at the very top? And then probably sprinkled all throughout your messaging and marketing, like you're mentioning. You're obviously giving kind of pieces of that to the people that you're obviously interacting with, which is awesome. So, kind of building off of this, now, right now, we're obviously, we got this website here. In terms of that website online presence, some of the challenges you face, perhaps like trying to make the website better overall. Tell me a little bit about that if you don't mind. Like, what has been some of the challenges that you might have encountered?
I think most of it is, once I get people to my website, they're interested. It's getting them to the website. And once they discover my background a little bit, and, I sort of wish I could almost put my bio in the front page. People get interested and curious and want to talk to me.
Yeah,
So, that's the sort of part I'm trying to get around is one, I need to sort of portray that I am I'm a realtor. I'm here for service. I'm here to engage and represent you. But I also find people are also interested in who I am as a person.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
and that theme there is what I'm trying to get across. In one of my most recent mail outs, I actually put a silhouette of a scuba diver in the back as a watermark. And I got
Nice.
like 5 people calling me and going, curious why you did that. Boom, had a conversation.
Yeah,
It's
totally.
that,
It creates,
yeah, it
yeah.
creates a curiosity. Why did he put a scuba diver on his marketing for real estate?
Hmm.
It's my
Hmm.
passion.
Yeah, absolutely. And so
Yeah.
when we talk about that too, when we talk about your site being your brand, this is the reason why, like one of the things that I've done with building out some of our new themes and the ones that are incoming are ones that really focus on putting the agent front and center, not necessarily pushing up the listings. People can go look for listings anywhere. You can go to listings.realtor.ca. You can go to, all these big search engines. But the reason why people come visit your website and they type in peterwatts.ca, whether it's from your, social media marketing material or your email campaigns or even SEO or like pay-per-click type advertising, when they come here, they're really experiencing your brand. And if we're not really taking the time to do that with your color palette, with your photo, with your, kind of captions and writing, then we're kind of missing the opportunity. So we'll actually circle back and set something like that up today, because I know Peter, and some of you guys who are watching this call, you might be using a very similar theme to Peter that's a little bit outdated now. We have some brand new themes that are available. So if you're not using some of our new ones, then allow us to help you kind of get set up using some of these new tools that we have available. And I'll show you guys that a little bit about that today, because probably in the last kind of half hour of our webinar, I'll actually go in and start making some specific edits on Peter's website and kind of show you how I go about this. Now, Peter, tell me a little bit about this. Obviously everybody kind of has different clients that they work with, and these are what I call your avatars. Some people work with first-time home buyers, some people work with like people looking to upsize, some people work with people looking to relocate. This is important because I find that oftentimes real estate sites are missing top of funnel pages that really take the time to address the problems and challenges that those people might have, and offering lead magnets as an opportunity to drive conversions to having people contact you by giving something of value in exchange for contact information. So before I kind of go down that rabbit hole, tell me a little bit about some of these characters that you might be actually working with.
I mean, I primarily work with, obviously I'm residential sales. I found myself that because of maybe my age point, that I seem to attract a lot more older clients than maybe younger clients. Uh,
Mhm.
I'm not quite sure if my reasoning's accurate for that, but it just seems to me that's how it sort of tends to go. Most of my clients tend to be older. I'm also looking at trying to sort of get across the fact that I co-founded Tourism Cowichan. So my knowledge of the Cowichan Valley and all it has to offer is pretty good. And I like to be able to get that across as an advantage when dealing with me coming to the valley from out of the area, which is a lot of, I would say probably 1 out of these 3 of my clients is probably coming from outside the Cowichan Valley.
Nice. So basically, people are looking to relocate to
Yeah,
that area.
yeah,
And you're saying 1 out of 3 people are basically coming outside of the valley there.
yes. For
Okay.
me,
And
this is
y-
my experience right now.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, and this is your experience, and that's what we're going off of. You mentioned you co-founded something. What was that you said?
I co-founded Tourism Cowichan. All right, so
Okay, that's
I was in
cool.
the hotel business. I was a general manager of a hotel. I partnered with another entrepreneur, owner of a business, and we went to battle with the municipality and eventually created Tourism Cowichan.
Is
Uh,
this it?
that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Good for you, man. That's
Uh,
incredible.
yeah, I'm no longer part of it because of my accident. I was about to become the president of it when I made a mess of my neck. Yeah.
Yeah, I see. Well, you know what? This is amazing material that you obviously have access to because, one of the things I talk a lot about, with whether it be SEO or again, that of making your website just better is making sure these things are not invisible, right? Like this should
Yes.
be front and center. Like, like this is the stuff that people ought to know, especially on some of these different pages that you have. So we'll talk about how we blend this in together. I'm actually very excited about integrating that. Now, as we kind of let me circle back to the older clients that you mentioned. These older clients that you're working with, you find that outside of the people who are coming into that valley and some of them looking to relocate. So there's an aspect of people who are looking to relocate for probably different reasons. And we can obviously get into those too. But these older clients in general, though, do
Yeah.
you find that there's like a majority that are looking to like downsize? Do you find they're looking for retirement homes? Like what do you feel like they're at in terms of their journey?
A lot of them have probably gotten used to the idea that they can work remotely. And with the accessibility from Vancouver Island to Vancouver with float planes, fast ferries, and all that kind of stuff, I do find a lot of people move here and then they maybe commute to Vancouver 1 day a week to do their job.
Mm,
So those are really
mhm.
attractive to me, those kinds of people, because I can set them in the right area of the Cowichan Valley that has all the infrastructure and technology they need to be able to be a remote worker.
Nice.
In some areas of the valley here, you're not going to get cell phone reception. Yeah.
Right.
So it's been challenging from that perspective, and I have to be careful when I'm out in the areas if I make sure I have cell coverage as well. So that's another thing to be conscious of. Yeah, I got my
That's
mind.
awesome. So
So
people looking to work remotely is like a total like avatar on its own. Like that is actually a pretty attractive kind of idea to be able to build a page around those specific people to call them out, to be able to share with them the dream of being able to do that and have accessibility to, like their place of work, which is in Vancouver via like you said, float planes, et cetera, you name it. And so just coming back to these older clients though too, like was there an aspect of that of which who are looking to downsize? You find that there at all or no?
Oh yes, I mean a lot of my clients that I've recently helped have all originated. Many of them originated from the prairie prairie provinces, and they are looking to downsize, move to somewhere that's less hectic, a bit more relaxed. I mean, if I get into a traffic jam in the area I live here, I'll be cursing because it's going to take me at least 5 minutes.
That's hilarious. Nobody else here can complain about that. Oh man, that's funny. That is so good.
Be late.
Perspective is everything, isn't it, huh?
Oh, yeah.
That is so good.
I mean,
Alrighty.
the other thing I haven't mentioned on it is my other speciality is I'm primarily focused on residential sales, but because my background and in hospitality, I do specify I'm open to working with B&Bs, guest houses, small motel hotels, or tourism-based projects. I'm happy to work with that as well.
Nice. Okay, awesome. So we have a lot of great kind of moving parts here, and all of these things are going to be incorporated into our final kind of like output of what we're going to create for you by next week, which I'm really excited about. Now, a couple of things I want to kind of, maybe hone in on yourself here. One of the things I talk about in a real estate website is that if it's about showcasing your brand, one of the biggest things that obviously highlight and create trust in someone's brand is that of social proof. And social proof has a lot to do with obviously people's testimonials, but it also has to do with things like ratings. It has to do with things like, statistics and numbers and data highlights, awards, accolades, you name it. And anytime I'm kind of working on a website or working with an agent, I always ask myself, like, hey, tell me a little bit about like your credibility. And now I know you've only been in the industry for 4.5 years, but obviously you're accomplished in terms of your career too. And I always tell agents like, don't feel like just because you've been in the real estate business for like 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, or 1 year that you can't highlight just your credibility at a large of your background, your history, your career, because that also still speaks volumes to people when they interact with you that they're dealing with someone who's a professional. Now, as really, because you already mentioned some things right now, Peter, with me about like, founding, the tourism website for the Valley there.
Yeah.
But when it comes into real estate for 4.5 years, has there been anything in terms of some data highlights or testimonials or awards and accolades that you've received?
Yes, the first year I joined Rank My Agent, and I got quite a few testimonials on that, which is great. And I won the Best Agent of Duncan award from Rank My Agent. My first year at the agency, I won the Agent of the Year award. And then now being at, when I was at Pemberton Homes, I have now won the, not won, but I was mentioned in the top sales leaders awards for being in the top 15 on the island with Pemberton Homes now 3 times. I won't get it for July because I've actually left Pemberton Homes, but I would have done if I'd stayed with Pemberton Homes.
I love that. That's awesome. And so to take something like that, though, and just for everybody who's watching and listening, this is again great opportunity to be able to highlight on a web page. Like I find it's so crazy. Like what you just mentioned right now, Peter. Right? Like you said, you were ranked best agent in Duncan. You have ranked my agent reviews, but we can't find them on the website. We don't have any accessibility to these things. Now we have written testimonials here, but written testimonials, and I always tell agents this, don't have that much weight and credibility as having verified testimonials. Okay. So rank my agent, verified. Google reviews, by the way, also verified. And just to pull this up here as well, too, this is your Google reviews page that I just kind of had pulled up. And so
Yeah.
having the opportunity to collect reviews here have a twofold advantage. One being credibility, second being for search engine optimization. If Google lends a lot of like what we call weighting to their search results built on trust and authority, because that's really what kind of ranks on page one. If Google actually didn't serve content to people based on trust and authority, then they would eventually lose credibility themselves, as in people would never use Google to search anything because
Right.
the results that were coming up are just constantly like flawed and people are not getting the results that they're looking for. So if trust is a big aspect of that, then credibility through that of testimonials is an absolute must. And I always tell agents that you want to build a workflow in your systems to ask for reviews in the opportune moments of that of giving people emotional highs in the experiences that they work with you, and then having a process to collect the review easily or giving them the opportunity easily to do that. Now, given the fact that you have these two different sources, like you got a Google profile, you got Rank My Agent, and some people on this call might have other platforms too. I always recommend learning how to just kind of rotate between them. So you're actually scattering reviews in different locations. You can definitely ask people to leave it in more than one place if they're willing, but you don't have to force that idea. You can obviously just kind of pick and choose based on what you think is best. But what you shared with me with that of, being agent of the year at the agency, and again, the top sales leader here in Pemberton, like these are all things we're going to incorporate to basically be able to really talk about your credibility where we can. Okay, Peter? Now, question for you now before I kind of move on and start maybe building out a site and kind of going into and kind of adding some things. I got your photo, by the way, that you sent on email, which you're part of now, this team, the Trevor Friesen real estate team. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
And so I know there's a logo on there as it relates to his team, but do you happen to have any kind of logo branding for yourself? Peter Watts, the name, anything like that?
No, I don't. It's something I've been trying to figure out and do. The nearest I've got to it is the outline of a Nautilus shell. Basically, a Nautilus shell is old, stable, it's evolved, it's still existing right now. And it's also symbolic to me as something you see when you scuba dive in the South Pacific.
Love it. And sorry, you said you've already worked on that, like you've already built it or something?
I was just developing it before I moved over, and I'm still sort of thinking about it if I want it as a sort of my own personal symbol. So I'm working on that. Yeah. What do you think? I don't know. I mean,
I
it's
like it.
okay.
One
Not
thing I'll tell you right away. One thing I'll tell you right away is that the most overrated logo in the real estate industry is
yeah.
that of a house. Okay,
Yeah.
right? So, when it comes to that of like logos, I think so often people maybe kind of spend time overthinking the logo and, oh, it's got to be real estate related. I need to get a window in there. I need to get like a little roof in there. And like, just like I always tell agents, just relax. Like roofs, windows, they're kind of overplayed. And because they're overplayed, you don't stand out. So if you want to stand out, go for a logo that really kind of shines. One logo we did a couple of years ago, I just want to pull up this client's website just to show you, and it kind of ties into what you just mentioned right now. She's actually on the island as well too, and hers, although it kind of has somewhat of a resemblance of a house, you'll notice it does a really good job of actually showcasing like blues and the sun, which is a reflection off of the water. And this was something that she wanted to be like that of like a waterfront type of a realtor. And I was like, hey, that's not, and we kind of like work together to be able to build this. So, one thing we'll do together, I'm sure, Peter, is that we'll take your original ideas that you already got, probably what you've already kind of started. And maybe what we can do is we can have our design team build you a logo and leverage kind of this concept that you already started and kind of show you something that I think would be pretty amazing. So why don't we try to, yeah, why don't we try to do that together? So that's great. And now with that, usually guys as well too, once you come up with a logo, which, I'm talking to Peter about, building a logo here, but just so you guys know, logos are available just even through Canva, right? Like, people, again, going back to what I'm saying earlier, may think they need to like, hire someone to get a logo done. You totally can if you want to, but you don't really need to today. If you want to, you can always just go to Canva. I'm just gonna pull up Canva right here just to show people. You can always just type in the word logos. And then Canva will give you a bunch of different logos to choose from. And as long as they're not like the premium ones that say the word pro, unless you have a pro account, then of course you can use those. You can probably find something where you can start like that of developing your logo. And I recommend it. The logo just allows people to remember your brand, and that's going to follow your kind of branding everywhere, whether it be on social media, whether that be on your webpage and marketing materials. It's just important to have something that people remember. And again, you can be creative. It doesn't have to be a house, but you can obviously work off of something here. And again, we've done things for different agents in the last little while. Like I worked with an agent a little bit at the start of this whole series, and we did his, which was about villa homes and bungalow homes out in Calgary. And I just want to kind of come back to that site here. This is a logo that he basically built on Canva. So as you can see here, nothing really about houses or like, things like that with roofs and stuff, but it's a very elegant looking logo. I liked it. I was like, this is great. I like what you've done here. It's simple, it's clean, and it's right to the point. So with that being said, let's come here to now your site, Peter, and let's start making some of these changes, talking about integrating some of these tools. What we're going to do is we're going to do everything on staging. Now, for anybody on this call that's also looking to make edits on your website, when you make edits on your website, I highly recommend that you switch this to staging so you're not interrupting anything that's happening on your live web page. And so that's what I've done. I'm come here to the back end underneath websites and underneath site settings, come over here to theme. I've changed it to staging. I'm going to go ahead and click on this little change button, and it gives me all the different themes that basically we can choose from. Now, the ones that we've launched in the last little while, happen to be these themes over here called Solaire. And we have different versions of it. So if you're looking for a lighter theme, darker theme, softer theme, you kind of have the opportunity to kind of pick and choose, and then you can basically modify it really from there. So I'm going to go ahead and just pick this light theme over here as our option. I'm going to go ahead and click on save. And I'm going to go ahead and start going through some of the things that we can actually do to start making some of these changes for Peter live on this call. And now we're not going to be able to do everything. Again, we're obviously short on time, but we're definitely going to get some things done here right away, just to be able to showcase that. So the first thing, Peter, you mentioned obviously is you had a team photo. I got it in my inbox here. Just a question though, that team photo, do you want to use that here in the opening slide of the homepage, or did you want to use it somewhere else?
What's your best? I mean, I'm looking at you for my best advice on this. It's my
Yeah,
first
absolutely.
and while I am individual within the team, I'm also part of the team and work with the team, right? So
Yeah, for sure. One thing I'll tell you right now about with when you're working with a team is that this is still your website. It's not the
yes,
team's website. Now, with
yes,
that being said, the team, however, gives you lended credibility though. So what I
yes.
would do is I would actually leverage that photo, which we'll actually add it in here a little bit later. And we should actually do a write-up about, why that team is so great. Like, what does that team bring in terms of the credibility, going back to statistics and numbers, testimonials, data points that makes it an attractive thing. No different than like when people maybe kind of, let's just say, leverage that of the brokerage brand as a way of being able to also lend credibility to their real estate business. That's why some people choose specific brokerages because of the name and what the name associates in the real estate space. So in that same kind of regard, we'll actually create a page for that. And I'll kind of show you what I mean by that here in a second. Yeah, one of my favorite tools, of course, to use, which we'll kind of play around with a little bit here today, is we'll use our best friend ChatGPT for certain things. Okay, but again, it's again how you use it, which is what's important. I'll kind of maybe go through that process as well where it's necessary. Now, first things first is, like I said, we don't have a color palette maybe chosen yet, but is there a specific color that, Peter, when you think about your website, you would like to maybe kind of brand it under? Because I know you had this little lime green that was going on your current site, but I'm not sure if that's what you want.
No, no, I was trying to match with Pemberton Homes colors. Yeah, no, I'm quite liking the Solaire colors you've got now. It's clean, it's smooth.
Yeah.
You could bring up the blue a little bit bluer because I like blue, but otherwise, no, it looks fine.
Yeah, awesome. Right on. So, one thing about color palettes, and of course, when we start doing the logo stuff, we can obviously play around with this even more. As a matter of fact, even if you go in and kind of do some more research and decide like, what kind of blue you're looking for, we can always kind of go like, blue color like this color instead versus the blue that you currently see. And of course, it makes a difference on how you experience the page, right? So by just changing a color like this is how this blue then starts standing out instead, as you can see there. And this might work better for you or the previous blue, but we'll obviously work on that maybe down the road. So just to show anybody, if you want to change your theme color anytime, just come over here, click on theme settings, and you can play around with your theme color all you want. So if you want to try something else, go ahead and go for it. It's pretty simple to do. We'll leave it as it is for now, Peter, and of course we can always change it a little bit later, which is no problem. Now, one of the things we talked about was your slogan. A big aspect of obviously your background is hospitality, and this whole idea of how can I be of service is a great way to start off the page. Now, notice you guys, and this is something I notice all the time with like real estate sites that I audit, is that oftentimes sites kind of, don't utilize this like top space in the best way that they possibly can. And what I mean by that is like there's no call to action. Maybe there's a question, maybe there's like a slogan, but there's no maybe kind of then like leading call to action, like a button or something of that nature. In this theme over here, we have the ability to basically put in that right away. We have that of a primary text, we have a secondary subtitle, and then we have some buttons to get people into some very specific parts of our website so they can start discovering those key pages. And that's very important. So where it currently says where dreams meet doorsteps, let's go ahead and change that. And we'll go ahead and change that to that of how can I be of service. And so we can go like this, how can I be of service? And that is like the opening line of that of the page. So there you go. Okay. So I'm
Yeah.
going to go ahead and save that. That's all done. Now, these photos that are rotating the background, Peter, are these photos that you own, or are these photos that maybe you purchased online? Or tell me a little bit about that.
Because of my association with Tourism Cowichan, I mean, the dog is mine.
I love it. I love it. That's awesome.
Ladies you're looking at right now, one is my niece, And this one is actually from Tourism Carrollton, the river.
Cool.
Otherwise, they're all mine. I have always made sure I have the right to use photographs before I put anything up.
Yeah, fantastic. Right on. So in terms of these photos, then that's great. So we can obviously definitely use some of these photos in that of our website, and we can just download them off of your current site and bring them over. That's not a problem at all. So we can definitely do that. One thing that I always kind of share with people too is that when you have your website open up, one of the best things about a web page when it opens up is you can actually leverage video, and video can result in something that's very engaging to the eye when people kind of come there for a first time. We talk about making a good first impression, then utilizing video is pretty powerful. Now, if you don't have any videos to utilize, you can always search them up using our stock library right over here.
Okay.
So, in terms of that, of like, the different areas that you can work in, like what depends on the results here really depends on what people upload, because these are all free videos to utilize. So if I type in the valley over here, we might get some things, but these things may not be the valley. It may be somewhere completely random, which I don't think these are the area. Is it their Peter? No. Okay. So in a case like this, it could be something else too for some people, right? Like you saw the opening kind of video that started. So if I type in the word interior, you can actually see there's home interior videos like these that open up. So, and again, if you have the capability of doing so, just, getting a video of your local area wouldn't be a bad thing to do. Now, some popular regions like Vancouver, Edmonton, Toronto, you will find videos of stock, videography there. So go ahead and go for it. But if you can't, that's no problem. Doing the second best thing is putting in images that represent your local area. And I like the fact that Peter's done that. One thing that I tend to avoid or encourage clients to avoid is just putting generic real estate, kind of shots as their banners. Because when people come here, the first thing you always want them to recognize is that you want them to recognize the area that you service in, right? So these shots right here do a good job of that. They automatically indicate like, oh, I work in this specific area, and that's fantastic. So we'll bring those shots over afterwards, because I'm gonna have to download them and then kind of bring them over. But it's very simple to do. Now, how can I be of service is the main title. Do you think you have like a secondary kind of title underneath that? What do you think?
I've been working on this phrase, for the team sort of thing, is offering unparalleled service in real estate in the Cowichan Valley.
Love it. And now I know I totally misspelled that, so I'll go ahead and fix that.
COW, cow.
Yeah, COW, that's right. And the rest of that was correct, right?
No, cow I Chan. Yeah, and take out the W and the I. Yeah, there we go.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. So there we go. Now, the other thing is that obviously this text is a little bit dark on this. So if I just kind of played around with this specific, let's just say video that we're using, even though this may not be the video, I would just lighten the background just so that's visible. So as you can see here, how can I be of service? Offering unparalleled service in real estate in the Cowichan Valley, and then why buy with me, why sell with me. So these buttons over here
Yeah.
can basically be changed, swapped out, and even the slides themselves can basically be different on every single page. So one thing I'm going to just kind of quickly showcase over here is that these buttons that currently say why buy with me, why sell with me, one of these things could actually say the following, just to kind of tie this back into what you mentioned earlier already with me, Peter. So one is let's just kind of have one go directly to your about page. So one could just say, why work with Peter? Okay. And
Yeah.
that's going to take people directly to your about page, which can tell the story around your background, who you are, what makes you unique. And you have so many cool things that make you unique that I'm excited about kind of helping you build on the about page to really, tell that story. The other
Okay.
button over here is an example, can really go into one of these, and actually could be multiple buttons here too. It could be like 2, 3 buttons as an example. But one of the things you talked about is obviously people who are maybe looking to relocate. So, if you wanted to, one of these buttons could be called relocating to the valley. And this could be one of the areas that it takes people to a page that's going to be the relocation page. We haven't built it yet, but we're going to build a page like that. So that could be
Okay.
a button, right? Another example is, people who are looking to maybe downsize, right? So people looking to downsize, you might have a button that says downsize over here, and it goes to a page that actually talks about downsizing, okay? So I'm going to just make this abbreviated to that of relocation or relocating, and that way it just has one label there too. And you'll notice now, like for example, do you see how it looks like this, right? So why work with Peter, relocating, downsize. And you can see all this is happening right away. You don't have to scroll down to find it out about these other maybe say services you're offering. They're available right here off the get-go. Now we'll obviously massage that a little bit differently, but just for the
Yeah.
sake of the example, I'm just going to highlight the fact that we can have that right there. Now, this section right here that talks about you is where we would have that of your agent photo. Now, whether you want to use obviously a revised photo as well too, with maybe one of the ones that you took in the recent photo shoot that you did, we
Yeah.
totally can, okay? I see the one that you sent over, and technically if I just kind of drop that one in right now, let me just find it off my desktop here. So this photo here, which is the one with you and the team, we can essentially just crop the photo. So it's just the part that's kind of really just featuring you, which is
Yeah.
this, cropping tool we can use right here to be able to do that. So, if I just took a shot of this part over here, technically I can have it so that it's even more zoomed in, just so that we're only focusing in on your kind of part over there. And then we
Yeah.
can kind of obviously massage it from there a little bit differently as we need to. Now, one cool thing, you guys, just as an update that my real page made, and obviously we can, kind of work on this a little bit more. I'll clean that up afterwards. But one thing I'll show you guys is that there's a tools right here that we have. So if you have like a photo you want to remove the background for, you can
Yeah.
always click on this button right here. And what it will do automatically with my real page is it'll go ahead and attempt to remove the background just like that. So we have just Peter's full out cutout instead versus the entire background. Now you may not need to do this. This really depends on, your photo. Perhaps your background of your photo looks just fine. But in this case, I removed it. There's obviously a little bit of that blue kind of shadowing on Peter's shirt. We'd obviously remove that and make that all kind of tweaked. One other cool thing, by the way, too, is we have this new tool that we added, you guys, which is the ability for you to edit your images directly here, which open up brand apps. So if you wanted to kind of put on text overlay on top, you wanted to, for example, like put in a different, like say, photo in the background, you totally could actually, which is a new kind of feature that we've just implemented for you to be able to do. So just to quickly show this to you, if I wanted to just randomly just kind of toss in a different image in the background of Peter there, let's just kind of, randomly toss in like, this one, maybe actually I need a vertical image. Let me just pick this one as an example, even though this wouldn't be the one that I would pick. If I send this to the background, you can clearly see here, you can actually start playing around with how you could
Oh,
actually have your image be overlaid on top of different things. If I wanted to add text on top of this too, by the way, I can now say, things like, hi, I'm Peter, right? Or, whatever you wanted to say, right? Like I'm just giving you guys the example. So if I wanted to have something like this, or if I wanted to write, Peter's full name, right? So it's Peter Watts, right? I could do something like that. If I wanted to put this on, some sort of color background, if I wanted to add some sort of little shadow to that, you can see that I'm able to do all of this inside of now our tool in our website versus before you might have had to like take this onto that of Canva, make some edits to it, and then kind of upload the image back in there. So this is some new features we've just recently added, which will give you some more, again, flexibility in how you actually create your design. So when you click on this button that says finish, you'll notice that the whole image comes in modified as such, and it can kind of look like this, which is awesome. And of course, I would just change some of these settings here at the bottom, which is to contain the image versus making it cover. And now it'll look something like this here instead, where it has the entire image visible. Now, again, this is not what I would be doing with Peter's actual photo. I would actually take his proper photo, get it cut down properly and also remove that blue kind of tint to it. And if obviously Peter's got like another photo from the photo shoot where it's just strictly him, we would pick from one of those instead. So just showing you guys that as an example. Now, when it comes down to those awards and accolades, some of those things that you mentioned, whether it be Agent of the Year, Best Agent in Duncan, with Rank My Agent specifically, Peter, and maybe you can actually jot this down so we can kind of do this later, is with Rank My Agent, you have a login where you can probably download badges. So the Rank My Agent badges and graphics and logos look
yeah.
something like this. You have these things like this that you can put into your website, you guys. But once you actually log in specifically, there is like a actual widget that you could utilize inside of your web page. And I think there's an opportunity right here where it kind of explains a little bit more. But depending on, if you're using Rank My Agent, you guys just look it up on their actual resource page. There's things here that they'll actually explain as to how you can actually utilize them inside of your web page. And again, Peter, I'll help you out with this directly. Our goal is to actually put a little stamp that actually kind of showcases like how many reviews that you have. It's going to look very similar to this. I have other agents who've used it before, and we're going to stick that thing right here in this kind of opener part where we actually put a very concise but kind of well-rounded bio. So essentially taking your full bio, taking the highlights out of it, and putting something that's more action-packed over here that speaks to the credibility, speaks to that of your kind of diverse background, and does it in a very concise way. I never recommend agents to put a full bio over here. Never recommend that, because people, when they come to your page, they don't really read it, they scan it, especially your homepage. If someone's intentional to want to read this actual bio, they're going to go over here to the about page. They'll read the entire thing over there. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah.
So when we actually work together on that, being able to, look at that and reformat that, we'll obviously go from there. So over here right now, what I got is I have your bio in this section over here. I'm not sure if this is like the most recent bio. Peter, do you want to just confirm that for me right now? Is this the most recent bio?
Yes, it is my most recent. Yeah.
It is the most recent. Okay. So
I mean,
let's just say
it's been edited down because I thought it was a bit long at the beginning, but yeah, it has been edited down by people telling me I got too much information in there. But
yeah. So one thing I always tell people, it's not too much information, it's just too condensed in one area. And
okay.
therefore it makes it feel so like overwhelming to read. But if you took all of these things and broke it into 3 different sections on the page and
Yeah.
had some photos basically laced in between, honestly, your page would become very exciting for people to read, just because it's not so much to read at once. Does that make sense? Right? So
Yeah.
there's a level of overwhelm people feel when they see like 4 paragraphs, 5 paragraphs like this. And that's why, like, I always recommend agents, and I'll show you the about page here in a second, Peter, just to walk you through it. I just went and took your bio, went to ChatGPT and asked for a concise version of that. So here we go. Here's our little concise version of it right here, as you can see. Okay. Now this part over here would obviously say the same region. So I'd obviously take this and put this over here. So you are a expert in this specific area. So we're going to type that in and just go ahead and save. Nice part about copy and pasting into our editor, you guys, is that everything formats on its own. So as you can see here, just formatted itself automatically. We're all good. So here we took his bio. Now, one thing about this kind of bio that we took, maybe we might tweak it a little bit more because of what you mentioned to me recently. The whole Rank My Agent, Best Agent in Duncan, blah, 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 blah. There's some awards and accolades. We can maybe make a mention of that somewhere over here, because we may not have like actual award icons. Some people, for example, have this. Like I know, Remax agents have typically things like that, like Lifetime Award, Hall of Fame, blah, blah, blah. So we may not have something like this. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. But we can actually add it in as text over here, even if we're just alluding to the fact that you are an award-winning agent. You have obviously received accolades and certifications, and we can make a mention of that. Now, one thing about this text as well, too, is that notice right now, and I think this is the same case of your current site, I'm going to go back to your homepage just to highlight this too, is notice how like even in text like this, once again, it's just text that maybe doesn't draw people's eyes to very specific parts of it. This is where we strategically use bolding inside of our web page to be able to make sure people's eyes draw to very specific things inside of this particular kind of bio. So for example, what you said earlier today as a co-founder of Tourism Coachette, like we can basically bold that part right here as an example, right? So that actually does stand out to people when they're coming here and reading this specific part. Does that make sense, right?
Yeah.
Even the part that you mentioned about your specific kind of like, interest, right? Where your passions are. You can technically have, that bolded just because that might stand out to somebody. They say, oh, this guy's into scuba diving, so am I. And all of a sudden creates an immediate connection. So there's aspects of that as to what you're building and why you're building it that you want to be strategic with, right? I could also do this as well too with 25 years of hospitality experience. Again, it's not real estate experience, but even though that 25 years of hospitality experience lends to, Peter's whole slogan of how can I be of service to you? And you can even make something like this over here too, by the way, Peter. One thing I always kind of share with agents is like, this is obviously a very important line to you based on that of your brand. Well, one of
Yeah.
the things on your brand is you can speak more to that. And there's a great author that I personally love who talks about that. His name is Simon Sinek. And he talks a lot about this whole idea of starting with why, right? What's your why? And really writing that statement that, hey, I believe in, and so that I can create this kind of an impact. And people are drawn to that. It's a way of being able to communicate a market so that you're really finding your audience. It's a saying I've heard before. If you're talking to everybody, you're talking to nobody. You want to speak to the audience and really cut through the noise and really find the people who want to work with you because it really resonate with that kind of a brand. So we can do that later, Peter, but I think that would be a great way to just kind of beef up this specific homepage bio, just to
Yeah.
make sure when people come here right away, they read a couple sentences and are like, yep, I like this guy. Let me keep on reading more. Make sense?
Is it important? I mean, there's one thing that the bio is missing there is it doesn't have any mention to my hotel awards,
Mm-hmm.
which are all focused on customer service as well. I won the Best Western Ultimate Award for customer service 3 years in a row, and it's
Mm-hmm.
one of like 30 hotels out of 5,000 in North America that gets that award, which is quite
Love
prestigious.
it.
Is it worth
Yeah.
mentioning that, or
Absolutely. It's just about where you mention it is what's important.
that's
And
good?
this is going back to where, again, when we talk about using stats, credibility markers, etc., we
Yeah,
want to keep things on the homepage concise, but always allude to things that people can read more about. So when we write in here, once we revise this bio together off the call from today, we'll have a section that's going to say something like award-winning realtor,
yeah,
award-winning realtor, or award-winning background, or award-winning experience, whatever we want to label it as.
yeah,
It's going to go over to your about page. That's going to really spell that out in more detail, because what you just said right there is actually very important. And if everybody's listening, this is a very important point to make. These awards and accolades we get in our industry may mean absolutely nothing to people outside of our industry. Does that make sense, right? So
yeah.
when we say things like, hey, best blah 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 blah, people don't really understand the context to that. So what you went on to share afterwards, Peter, was amazing. You said, I was like, this out of these number of people, that's what that is for. So even when you said at the agency, I was the agent of the year out of how many agents, right? Like that's a very important context, right? Top sales
Very
leader.
many, not very many, but you know what? It's a beautiful piece of Tiffany lead crystal glass. So there we go.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And so you pick and choose, of course, right? But like the idea is that you can leverage that and definitely showcase your credibility. Okay. And this right here is also something I want you to be thinking about as well, is that success by the numbers, anything numerically that you can share is also very powerful, right? So when you have things like total homes sold, total sales volume, average days on market, here's another one that I've been helping agents with too, your list to sale price ratio, right? So,
Yeah,
when it comes down to that, compared to that of the average board, these are great stats and statistics to be able to share so that people on a glance can understand your overall performance. And if you don't have these numbers at this point, it's again no big deal, just a concept that we can obviously leverage. Now,
yeah,
testimonials, like you already have them, you already have written testimonials. So this actual block is going to be great for that. We'll take some of these reviews over here and we will use this carousel to basically highlight them. So they'll basically be rotating inside of this section, which is really easy to do. Like when I come over here and edit this block, I see all of my testimonials over here, and I can go ahead and basically add in now a review into this specific section. So if I just did that right now for one of your first reviews over here, for Zoe, I could just copy this text over here as an example, paste it in right over there, and I could put the word Zoe over here, and that's the attribute. Now, one thing about testimonials, you guys, that I specifically recommend, it goes back to what I feel about people reading text in general. Sometimes people don't read the entire review. So what you want to do is for all your testimonials, especially for those you guys who have written reviews on your site, is take a look at the entire testimonial and ask yourself, what was the key point of this testimonial, right?
yeah.
So if you ask me, when I read this testimonial, the key point here is that Peter was fantastic for cross-province move. So if I'm
Right.
somebody who's also looking to relocate and I see a review and at the very top, it says fantastic for our cross province move, I was going to be, yeah, I'm maybe picking this guy. I'm going to read more. In addition to that, here's another great line. He was able to view houses on our behalf and help us pick out our perfect home, meaning that these people probably they weren't even there. You know, you were viewing probably the homes, right?
Yeah, I never
Is
met my
that
client until she took the keys from me for the house she bought.
there you go, right? So like that's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. So I'm just going to show you guys an example of how I would write this testimonial just by taking that kind of like one excerpt out of it. I could say he was able to view houses on our behalf. And what's going to happen is that this whole thing is going to add a sentence right here at the top. Do you see that there, right? And that just makes the testimonial that much better. Or I can say Peter was fantastic for our cross province move. And I can also put this in quotations as well too, by the way. So it kind of looks, oh, actually the quotations didn't show up there. I realized they don't show up in the title section due to formatting, but it's all good. Peter was fantastic for our cross-province move. And so, you know, if you're going to do testimonials, guys, again, that's what I recommend. If you don't put in like headlines, people may not read the entire article. Does that make sense? Okay, same idea, right? So that's that. Now, this section over here, when we revise this, Peter, all of these right here are going to have all your different services. So
Okay.
the concept being, may I be of service to you, that whole concept, or how can I be of service to you? We can use this section over here to basically fillet open like all the different types of services that you have. And we
Yeah.
can obviously put a headline over there and all that to match your brand voice. So underneath this section right here that says buying a home, find your perfect place, this is
Yeah.
one box. Here's another, here's another. Now this is going to be turned into a carousel. Let me show you guys what I mean by this. This is why I love this whole block in general, is that you can put it into a carousel so it doesn't take up more space on the page. And then it can basically loop so that it can basically kind of go in a order one by one after a certain amount of time. So I can kind of choose the speed. And now you can see here, it's like a carousel. Watch this, right? So now you can see here, I can basically click through and can go to the next one. And it can go to the next one and so on and so forth. And so now I can basically build out essentially what I want here, which is my different avatar pages. So in this case, helping out Peter here, I would have something like this. I would have, say, an example of people who are looking to downsize. So I'd say looking to downsize, question mark. And then I would have some sort of complimentary text right over here, something like take the hassle out of finding your next home for your new chapter as an example. And then that would go over to my downsizing page. So let me just save that just so you guys can see that, right? So looking to downsize, take the hassle out of finding your new home. All right, look at the next one now, right? So that's avatar number one. Avatar number two, we were talking about people who are looking to work remotely or that of relocating. So relocating to the valley. I got to type this in right again. There we go. Okay, so relocating to Cowichan, and then I'm going to put in my text over here. Let me help you discover this place. Or I can even write this actually. This is actually even more powerful. As a co-founder of Tourism Cowichan, I am your guide for this area. And that's going to now go into that page.
Okay.
See that? Looking to downsize, relocating, and then the last one you can also maybe even kind of, well, not even the last one, you can do more than that as well too. But just for the sake of time, I'm going to put this one over here. Work remotely. And we can have something over here that says something along the lines of like, find a home in this peaceful region that is great for your commute.
Cool.
So there you go. 1, 2, and 3. And again, we can do more. And the nice part about this, I love this block for this reason, you guys, is not increasing the length of the page. That's what I love about it. Just goes sideways, right?
Yeah.
So I can add more things. I can add free home evaluation. I can add, hey, find out what your neighbor sold for. I can add whatever, like another avatar, like, first-time home buyers, like you name it, residential, whatever, search for homes, etc. So that's that. Now, one last thing I'm going to mention because I'm almost out of time. Hope you guys have been getting a lot of value out of today. I know I've had a great time with Peter so far. He's been a great guest. And one thing I want to make a mention now, this is the last part, Peter, we're going to work on. And this is for everybody to pay attention to. Super important point is you need to develop lead magnets. Okay. Lead magnets bridge the gap of trust between people who don't know you and are trying to get to know you. And lead magnets are free downloads. Oftentimes, they're actually majority of the times they're free. Sometimes they may not be. They may be at a very, very low cost. But in a real estate space, a lot of these things you guys can actually create can be done basically for free. Now it's time and effort on your end, and it may cost you something on your end if you have someone do it for you. But like the bottom line is that you want to distill all of your knowledge that you possibly can into what we call a step-by-step or a list type format or some sort of a story. This is what creates what we call a attention for people to want to keep on reading, keep on wanting to understand or learn or whatever. Now, the definition of a lead magnet, very simply put, is that it's a very specific solution to a very narrow problem in the journey that typically your avatar is going through. So if I were to like have an extended conversation with Peter one-on-one, me and him together could probably find out that when someone's looking to relocate to this specific region that he's working in, there's a certain problem in their mind that they're already facing. Once he helps them solve that problem, let me take a guess, Peter, they're going to have a brand new problem after that, right? And then you're going to have to solve that problem. And then guess what? They have another problem after that. And you solve that problem. So there's a never ending cycle of a problem solution that people actually go through in their real estate journey. So, for example, someone looking to relocate, the first problem they may have is how do I look at homes when I'm not even in the area? That might be a problem that they're currently thinking about. And now Peter can create a guide that says, your 5 ways to view a home without leaving your home in this valley. Like that could be a guide that he creates. And inside the guide, he talks about the 5 ways you can do this. And he goes through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, concisely branded to him. And it basically answers that person's question. And that's the beautiful part of using different lead magnets. So the key behind the lead magnet there that I want to explicitly mention is that your lead magnet needs to create curiosity. And the best way to create curiosity is through implicit or explicit questions. And you can do that through using steps, lists, and stories. This is actually the format, by the way, you see all across social media. Matter of fact, when you're kind of like on social media browsing and you see a video and someone says, here's 5 ways to know that you need to move to your next home. And you want to know the 5 ways or the five different things. And he's giving you a list. Or if you ever heard on social media somebody say, let me tell you a crazy story about how I helped this homeowner basically, sell over asking in less than 2 days. Okay, everybody's hooked. People want to know, what's the story? Tell me about it. So using hooks like these inside of your lead magnets, that's why I always tell people, never call your seller's guide. Okay, that's what every other realtor calls their seller's guide. Don't do that, right? Call your guide something that's actually calling out your avatar. So one thing, Peter and you and I will work on this together, okay? One thing you and I will do is we'll actually call out our avatars in different guides that we may build for them on these specific pages. So for example, it would be like your downsizer's guide to, peaceful living in the valley as an example, right?
Yeah.
Versus the word called downsizer's guide, or seller's guide, right? As an example. Or if people who are looking to relocate, it's like your stress-free relocation plan, and a little subtitle that says the 10 things you must know before you consider moving, right? And that becomes your lead magnet. And all of this is going to be your distilled information. And I caution everybody when, it comes to using ChatGPT, remember, if people wanted to use ChatGPT, they would. What separates you from ChatGPT and why your lead magnets have to be powerful is because they're really coming from you. It's your distilled knowledge, it's your curated content. Sure, you can use ChatGPT to help refine some things, but remember, it's really because they want to get to know you. So I'm all done for today. You guys are so much. I'm excited about doing on Peter's site. Peter, I'm so excited to come back with you like next week on Tuesday and wow everybody with what we do here together. It's going to be incredible.
Looking forward to it.
I love it. So as we close up today, guys, again, you'll find a recording of this webinar on our knowledge base. Again, every single week I do this for a brand new agent. If you're tuning in here and you're like, man, I would love to be a part of something like this, reach out and ask. There's only so many people we can possibly accept. There's a whole process we go through to determine who we'd love to maybe have on this kind of a series. So Peter, we appreciate you being here. Any closing remarks you want to make about this whole kind of Brand Like a Boss series that you got a chance to be a part of? Love to maybe have you just kind of close off for today, and we'll kind of wrap it up with that.
Well, thank you, Sanjeev. Really appreciate it. And It's great. I mean, I've been wanting someone to help me, guide me through this process, because I'm an expert at selling, not at website design. So your help
Mhm.
with this is absolutely amazing. And I'm looking forward to getting the final product up and running. Excellent.
Awesome. Love it. Appreciate the kind words there, Peter. And guys, thanks again for being with us today. We will definitely catch you next week on Tuesday. And Peter, I'll be in touch with you to work on this more specifically. Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
guys, take care. Appreciate your time. Bye bye now.
Thank you. Bye bye.